Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for August 5, 2022, the Oops edition. And we begin with that story from the Houston Chronicle that right-wing nutbag Alex Jones' lawyers may have mistakenly sent a digital copy of his personal cell phone containing years' worth of emails and texts to the legal team of the plaintiffs who were suing Jones for defamation. I say may have because it's not clear if it was inadvertent or not, as the attorneys had the chance to fix the error, if any. Nevertheless, it made for an incredibly dramatic cross-examination, live and in color, in the Alex Jones trial. Most interestingly and probably most damaging for Jones is that the January 6th Insurrection Committee has subpoenaed those. It's going to be interesting to see what they say about the relationship between Jones, the insurrection, and the Trump administration. Next up, from Reuters, the SEC has addressed possible misconceptions about conflicts of interest that occur between broker-dealers and investment advisors, and address when they must reveal conflicts of interest when providing recommendations to investors. So conflicts of interest continue to be a bugaboo. Next up, from the Coinbase, a rare contributor, nevertheless certainly a preferred one or appreciated one, is an interview with Binance's investigations team, where they complain about the coverage they got and try to talk about the advances they've made to keep Binance from being a repository for criminal activity and money laundering. So it's a pretty interesting interview, and they provide a lot of details of what they have done to try to keep Binance on the right side of the law. And our final story comes to us from a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, this being the Food Safety News. And the Food Safety News is reporting on the trial of Paul Cruz, who is the former CEO of Bluebell Ice Cream. Mr. Cruz has been indicted and is now on trial for criminal charges around Bluebell's listeria outbreak. The claim is that he hid the information from regulators and from the public of the true nature of the listeria outbreak, although Bluebell did later go public with the information and help with the recall of its food product. But a pretty significant trial in Austin, Texas. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Mr. Cruz. And Bluebell has just gone downhill since the listeria outbreak. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.